My name is Rachel Mercer. I'm 39 years old. My daughter Olivia is 10. She has red hair she inherited from my mother, freckles she inherited from nobody. They just appeared one summer when she was 6, like they'd always been there and were simply waiting for the right moment. And an extremely specific internal sense of justice that has been fully operational since approximately age 4. She once refused to eat a piece of birthday cake because the slice next to hers was slightly larger, and when I offered to swap, she said, "That's not the point, Mom. The point is that whoever cut it needs to do better." She is also the child who, at age 8, organized a bake sale to raise money for the family 2 streets over whose house flooded. She told no one about it beforehand. She just set up a table on the sidewalk, whacked with things she had baked herself. They were not perfect. They were 8-year-old level. Some of the cookies were significantly darker on the bottom than on the top. And she raised $74 and slipped an envelope under their door. She didn't tell me about it until 3 weeks later. I found out from the neighbor. She is 10 years old, and she is the clearest person I have ever known. My husband Tom and I had been married for 7 years when this happened. 7 years that I would describe, honestly, as mostly good. Not perfect, not without friction, but good in the way that real things are good. Worn in, genuine, chosen every day. We had a house we'd bought together, a dog named Biscuit who had opinions about everything, and Olivia, who had inherited her father's laugh and my mother's hair and her own completely original sense of how things ought to be. Tom's sister Sandra had always been a presence. That's the only word for it, a presence. She called 3 times a week minimum. She had opinions about every decision Tom and I made, and she had a particular way of framing her opinions as concerns that made them very difficult to argue with directly. "I'm just worried about you both. I'm just saying what I see. I only want what's best for Tom." She had never been warm to me, not hostile, not outwardly unkind, just never warm. There was always a slight distance, a slight emphasis, a slight something I couldn't fully name. Tom said she was protective, said she'd always been protective of him, since they were children, since their father left, and it was just the 2 of them and their mother for a long time. I understood that. I tried to hold space for it. I held space for it for 7 years. Then I got sick. It was November. I had been tired for weeks in a way that felt different from ordinary tired. Not the tired of working too much or sleeping too little, but a deeper, heavier thing, like something in the engine rather than the fuel. I ignored it as long as I could, the way you do when you have a 10-year-old and a job and a life that doesn't pause for you to feel uncertain. Then one morning I couldn't ignore it anymore, and I called my doctor. 4 days later, I was in the hospital. I won't go into the medical details. They aren't the point of this story. What matters is that it was serious enough to keep me there for 11 days. Serious enough that for the first 3 days, Tom barely left the chair beside my bed. Serious enough that Olivia came to visit, wearing her good coat and carrying a card she'd made that said, "Get well or else," in large letters on the front and on the inside. "That's a joke. Please get well. I need you." Oh, I kept that card. I will always keep that card. Sandra arrived on day 4. I know this because Tom mentioned it. She'd come to help with Olivia, he said, and I said that was kind and meant it, because I was tired and I needed help, and family is supposed to be what you have when things go wrong. I was in the hospital for 11 days. On day 8, Tom came to visit, and he was different. Not different in a way I could point to directly. He was attentive, he was kind. He brought me the specific soup I'd asked for, and remembered I didn't want the crackers that came with it. But something in the room was different. He stayed less long than usual. He checked his phone twice. When he left, he kissed my forehead, and I held his hand for a moment, and he smiled, and I thought, "You are exhausted. This has been hard on you, too. I'll be home soon." Day 11, discharge day. A friend drove me home because Tom had a meeting he said he couldn't move. I said, of course. I understood. Meetings don't pause for hospital discharges. I was fine. I had a ride. My friend Sarah drove me. We talked about ordinary things the whole way. I was so relieved to be going home that I could feel it in my whole body. This enormous unclenching, this sense of returning to myself. We pulled up to the house. I got out. Sarah helped me with my bag. I said I'd be fine from here. She didn't need to come in. I'd call her later. I walked up to the front door. I put my key in the lock. It didn't turn. I stood there for a moment, tried again. Wrong angle, maybe. Too much time. My hand's not quite right yet after 11 days. I tried again. The key didn't fit. The lock had been changed. I stood on my own porch with my bag and my hospital discharge papers and my get well or else card folded in my coat pocket, and I looked at the lock on my own front door, and I understood, slowly and then, all at once, what I was looking at. I could hear Biscuit on the other side of the door. I could hear Olivia's voice from somewhere inside the house. I rang the bell. There was a long pause, long enough that I had time to think about the pause. Then footsteps. Then the door opened. Sandra. She was in my kitchen slippers, the ones I'd had for 2 years, the ones with the worn spot on the left heel where I always put my weight. She looked at me with an expression I can only describe as prepared, like she had thought about this moment and decided in advance how she was going to look during it. "Rachel," she said, "you're home." "I live here," I said. "Of course. Come in." She stepped back. I walked into my house. Everything looked the same, and everything was slightly wrong. A different coat on the hook by the door, a mug on the counter that wasn't ours, a blanket on the couch folded in a way I never fold things. Olivia came around the corner from the hallway at a dead run and hit me at full speed, arms around my waist, face buried in my coat. "Mom," she said. Just that. Just Mom into the fabric of my coat, holding on. I held her. I held her for a long time. Hit that like button and subscribe before I tell you what I found out next. Tom came home that evening. He looked, when he saw me, like a man who had been hoping for more time. I waited until Olivia was in her room. I sat down at the kitchen table. Tom sat across from me. Sandra was in the living room. I could hear her. I don't think she knew I could hear her, or maybe I do think that, and I'm being generous. "The lock," I said. He looked at his hands. "Tom, the lock on our front door was changed. My key didn't work." Sandra thought. She was worried about security. She said the neighborhood. "Tom," I kept my voice level. It took more effort than the surgery had. "Sandra changed the lock on our house. She is wearing my slippers. There is a blanket on our couch that is not our blanket. I want to know what has happened in this house in the last 11 days. He told me. It took a long time. Some of it I had already guessed. Some of it I hadn't. Sandra had arrived on day 4 with 1 bag. By day 6, she had 3. She had told Tom, in the evenings, after Olivia was in bed, that she was worried about him, that she thought I was difficult, that she thought he'd been unhappy for longer than he'd admitted, that she thought he deserved more. She had said these things slowly, carefully, every evening, while I was in the hospital and he was tired and scared and not sleeping properly. She had also on day 9 suggested that she stay on after I came home, to help, while I was recovering, in my house, in the home I had lived in for 6 years. I sat with everything Tom had said. I let it settle. Then I said, "Here is what I need you to do." He looked up. "I need you to go into the living room and tell your sister that she is leaving tonight. Not tomorrow. Tonight. I need you to give her an hour to pack what she brought, and then I need you to drive her to wherever she's going, and I need you to come home alone." "Rachel, I also need a new key. I'll call a locksmith. Tonight, before you drive her. The locksmith comes before she leaves." He was quiet. And Tom, when you come back, we are going to have a very long conversation. Not tonight. Tonight I'm going to sleep in my own bed for the first time in 11 days. But soon. And I need you to be ready to be honest during it. He nodded. Do you understand what I'm asking? Yes, he said. I understand. He stood up. He walked into the living room. I heard the conversation through the wall. I didn't try to. I sat at my kitchen table and I looked at the mug that wasn't mine on the counter, and I thought about 11 days and 3 bags and my kitchen slippers and what it means when someone decides, while you are lying in a hospital bed, that your house is available. Sandra's voice got loud at one point, then quiet, then loud again. Then I heard the front door. Olivia appeared in the kitchen doorway in her pajamas with Biscuit under one arm. She looked at me. She looked at the closed front door. She looked back at me. Is she gone? She said. She's going. Olivia nodded. She set Biscuit down on the floor. He waddled over to me and put his chin on my knee. She moved the rock jar, Olivia said. I looked at her. I have a jar of rocks from places we've been, she said. She moved it to make room for her candles. I moved it back. Good, I said. I told her it wasn't her shelf. What did she say? She said I was being difficult. Olivia considered this. I told her it wasn't her shelf, and it wasn't her house, and it wasn't her life. Then I went to my room. I looked at my 10-year-old daughter in her pajamas, with her sense of justice fully intact. You did the right thing, I said. Obviously, she said. Do you want tea? The locksmith came. Tom drove Sandra to their mother's house an hour away. He was gone for 2 hours. When he came back, he sat down at the kitchen table, and he looked tired in the particular way of someone who has been carrying something they should have put down a long time ago. We didn't have the long conversation that night. I kept my word. I slept in my own bed, and I listened to the house be quiet around me, and I let myself just breathe. We had it over the following week. Several conversations, actually. Not one long one, but many shorter ones, which is how real things work when you're dealing with them properly. Tom was honest. More honest than I'd expected. More honest than was comfortable for him, and I respected him for it. He said Sandra had gotten into his head during a time when he was scared and exhausted and not himself. He said he'd let things happen that he should have stopped. He said he was sorry. I believed him. That's not nothing. That's actually quite a lot. Sandra sent a message 3 weeks later. It was long. It moved through several phases: explanation, justification, what felt like the beginning of an apology that then reversed course and became a list of grievances. I read it carefully. I didn't respond. She's not welcome here. That line is clear, and it's staying clear. Olivia asked me once, a few weeks after everything, whether I was angry. We were doing dishes together. She was drying, because drying is her job, and she does it thoroughly, even when nobody's watching. Yes, I said. I was very angry. Are you still? I thought about it honestly. Less, I said. I'm mostly just clear now. She dried a bowl, set it on the stack. I put the rock jar back in the same spot, she said. Exactly the same spot. I know, I said. I saw. She handed me the next bowl. Good, she said. That was all. Good, and then back to the dishes. Some things break in ways that can't be fully repaired, and some things break in ways that actually clarify the structure underneath, show you what was load-bearing and what was decoration. I know now which parts of my life are load-bearing. I know which people are load-bearing. Olivia is. Tom, with work, is. Biscuit obviously is. The rest I'm letting settle where it falls. Last week, Olivia added a new stone to her jar. She found it at the park, smooth and gray, with a white line running through the middle like a seam. What does this one mean? I asked. She held it up to the light. The year Mom came home, she said. She put it in the jar. She put the lid back on. She went to do her homework. I stood at the kitchen window for a long time after that, looking at the jar on the shelf, all those stones, all those places, all that careful keeping track. And I thought, we're fine. We were always going to be fine. Some people just didn't know that yet. Did I go too far? Or not far enough? Tell me in the comments. And if this story stayed with you, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop your location below. USA, UK, Canada, Australia. I read every single one.